Piping lets you use the output of one command as the input of another. This means that you can string together a bunch of smaller commands to have a pretty big, cool effect. For instance, let's say that I have a text file called text1, and I want to find all of the lines that have both cat and bird on it. Now, I could do this with a moderately complicated regular expression, and you'll find that there are 2 lines that have both cat and bird on them. But a much simpler way would be to find all of the lines that have bird on them, and then use those lines as input to another grep call and find which out of those lines have cat on them. And to do this, all we would have to do is grep cat in text1 and pipe that to another call of grep for bird. To show you what this does, this is exactly the same as if we did grep cat text1 and used all of this as the input for our second call to grep. To be precise, whenever you use a pipe, it will take the standard output from one command and use it as the standard input for another command. This means that you can use a pipe with any command that accepts standard input. So for instance, if I wanted to cat text1 to print out this text file and pipe it to cat, that would actually work. Because if you look at the man page for cat, you'll see that you will concatenate either the file or standard input. There are a lot of commands that might not make a whole lot of sense to have standard input. For instance, grep will work with standard input if no files are named. And you probably wouldn't ever use grep with standard input except in the case where you were doing something like using a pipe. The same goes with cat. If you just type cat without giving it a file, then instead of actually printing anything out, it will use standard input, let you type stuff out, and then after you type it out, it'll print the exact same thing back at you. So it's completely useless unless you're using it with something like a pipe. If you want to use the same idea of redirecting output to input from one program to another within one of your programs, you can use the pipe system call. This will behave pretty similar. You basically get a file descriptor that you can use instead of standard output and one that you can use instead of standard input. Also, for the sake of clarity, the pipe key is what you get when you say shift and backslash. So it's the same thing that you would use to say or in a programming language. And the power of pipes comes because they are so universal. In other words, any program that outputs to standard output and that takes input from standard input can use a pipe. That means that pretty much any Unix utility is going to work with pipes. So if you have something that you need to combine a bunch of small things into one larger task, you can use pipes along with the Unix commands that you already know in order to accomplish that.